I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is a special edition of the MeidasTouch podcast. We're going to be bringing you the No Kings 3 kickoff event. As I'm sure you all know, No Kings 3, let's just call it No Kings, the biggest one yet, will be taking place on March 28th. It's going to be in more locations. It's going to be bigger. I believe this will be the biggest mass mobilization by far in American history. I think, look, No Kings 1, fantastic. No Kings 2, massive. No Kings 3 is going to be historic. The MeidasTouch Network, of course, will be covering it. We'll be working with all of the leaders, although it is a leaderless group. Everybody who we've worked with in the past over there who have led the No Kings will be distributing it, giving you more information as always. But on March 28th, expect millions. My estimate, it's going to be tens of millions of people will be rising again to show the world that the power belongs to the people. We do not do kings in the United States of America. This non-violent, very peaceful, loving, empathetic, pro-democracy movement is only growing. So we're going to share with you the strategy. We're going to show you what you can expect. We're going to bring in people who are working behind the scenes to make this No Kings the biggest event yet. You'll hear from the movement's leaders, although I like to say it is a leaderless movement because we're all in this together, shoulder to shoulder, about the strategic and moral imperatives behind the No Kings mobilization. And folks, with Donald Trump's unlawful and disastrous war in Iran that has compounded matters and made things worse, as Donald Trump has acted like a mad king, getting the United States into this disastrous war, I think the stakes and the importance of No Kings 3 is that much bigger. So join me as we welcome the No Kings 3 kickoff call. Let's bring it in, everybody, and make sure you attend No Kings on March 28th. MeidasTouch will be there. We'll be broadcasting it live. Great to have you watch the kickoff call.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Chris Percy, and on behalf of the No Kings Coalition partners, welcome. We're gathering in a moment where the stakes are not distant or theoretical. They are unfolding in real time in people's lives and in our communities. Right now, families across the country are living in fear. Masked ICE agents are entering neighborhoods, detaining people and tearing families apart. Immigrant communities are being targeted and terrorized. Black and brown communities are facing profiling, surveillance, and violence. LGBTQ people, especially trans communities, are under increasing attack. Muslim, Arab, and South Asian communities continue to be scapegoated and watched. At the same time, working people are being pushed to the brink. The cost of groceries, housing, and healthcare keeps rising while protections are being stripped away and wealth is being funneled to the wealthiest people. For so many, it feels like the ground is shifting beneath their feet, and that is intentional. This is what it looks like when fear and division are used as tools of power, and it is not what democracy is supposed to be. So if you're feeling anger or fear or urgency right now, that feeling is grounded in something very real, very tangible. But here's what's also real. We are not powerless. Let me say that one more time. We are not powerless. Tonight, we're coming together to gather energy, clarity, and courage for March 28th, a day when people across the country will step into nonviolent action to say clearly and collectively, no thrones, no crowns, no kings. Because this country does not belong to any strongman or those who try to rule through fear. It belongs to the people. And when our communities are under attack and families are being pushed to the brink, silence is no longer an option. This live stream that you've joined today is a bridge between fear and action, between isolation and collective power, between witnessing what's happening and stepping into what we can build together. And what we build together matters, y'all. Because history shows that when ordinary people come together, grounded in courage and committed to nonviolence, we can push back. We can protect one another, and we can move this country closer to the democracy it promises to be. So tonight, I'm so excited. You'll hear from leaders, organizers, and voices from across communities all over this country about what this moment demands and how each of us can be a part of it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. Let's get started. And there is no better way for us to get started than for you to commit now to joining the thousands on this call and the millions that will gather on Saturday, March 28th. Not only do each of you viewing me need to join us, you can also bring 3 people with you, okay? Ain't no party unless you can bring your friends, right? Bring your friends, your colleagues, your family members, you put them in a stroller, bring them on out. Commit to bringing at least 3 folks with you. If you're committing to bringing 3 folks, let us know in the chat. If you're feeling that spark, that pull to act, don't wait on it. Now's the time. Head to nokings.org right now. The link is in the chat. It is also on your screen, ready for you. There you can find all the resources, including training, the map, and more, where you can find your nearest event, or you can create one. So remember, March 28th, you can bring at least 3 of your friends with you to your local action. And if you don't see a local action, you can host that action. And don't worry, we have all the resources for you at nokings.org. As we build towards March 28th, it's voices like these that remind us why showing up matters. Let's hear from some of our coalition partners, members around the country right quick. I'll be right back.
The reason that we decided to do this is because we wanted to build community. We didn't want others to feel alone. Oftentimes in a red area, it's easy to stay quiet and to not get involved because you think you're the only one. And so by building this community, by building this network within our protesting, we've allowed others to come and join and be able to exercise and use their voice.
Protesting can sometimes be considered scary, especially in a red area. But one of the things that we've learned through doing this is our very first protest a year ago was 20 people. Our last one was over 700. When people don't realize that there's a safe space, they stay home, they stay quiet. What protesting does is it puts it out publicly in your community so that you can raise awareness for everyone else who feels just like you to join in with the initiatives and use their voice.
We do that. It allows other people in this community to realize that they're not alone, that we are a community and they have a place to come.
Hi, my name is Corey Root, and I'm an organizer helping lead the coalition behind No Kings 3 in Worcester, Massachusetts. In September of 1774, over 4,000 militia members from across the region gathered here in Worcester. They peacefully shut down the British courts, refusing to allow the king's authority to rule in our community. Days later, Worcester formally declared independence from England, months before Lexington and Concord, and years before the Declaration of Independence. It's a powerful reminder of what people can accomplish through collective, nonviolent action. Today, the same spirit unites our community again for No Kings 3, led by the Central Commonwealth Coalition. If you're in the area, please join us at Institute Park in Worcester, Massachusetts from 1 to 3 p.m. And if you're somewhere else, check for events near you. New groups are forming across the country every day. In Worcester, we said no to kings in 1774, and we're saying it again. No kings. Not then, not now.
All right, so let's carry that with us as we come back to this conversation and continue to building what is next. Our first guest tonight has literally written the book on countering authoritarianism and how it has historically shown up throughout our modern history. Dr. Maria Stephan is one of the country's foremost political scientists. She serves as co-lead and chief organizer with the Horizons Project, an organization that seeks to strengthen connections and collective action among U.S. pro-democracy movements and networks. She is also the co-author of Why Civil Resistance Works, The Strategic Logic of Nonviolent Conflict. Tonight, Dr. Stephan joins us to share about why people power matters, its efficacy, and what we can do to bend the arc toward a better, stronger democracy. Please welcome Dr. Maria Stephan to our call. Hi, Dr. Stephan. Thank you for joining us this evening and sharing some of your wisdom.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much. It is wonderful to be with everyone today on this eve of No Kings 3. I am so blown away. Not only are we heading into what will be the largest single-day demonstration in U.S. history, but so important, each No Kings has gotten bigger, and it's spread to more towns and communities across the country, including, as we heard in that video, including in rural and deeply conservative parts of the country. That is so incredibly important because mass diverse participation involving people from many different walks of life and parts of society is critical to the success of pro-democracy movements. We need to build the broadest and most inclusive democracy front possible because this is really not about red versus blue. It is not about conservative versus progressive. It is about democracy versus authoritarianism. It is about freedom versus tyranny. It is about love and solidarity versus greed and hate. Now, so having studied and worked with hundreds of anti-authoritarian movements around the world, including our Black-led multiracial civil rights movement that dismantled Jim Crow racial authoritarianism and paved the way to a multiracial democracy, and having worked with the Serbs who toppled Slobodan Milosevic, and the Brazilians who stopped Bolsonaro in his tracks, and the South Koreans who rose up to end martial law and impeach their autocratic president last year, and now looking at the remarkable organizing happening in Minnesota and all across the country, I'd offer three observations. First, while the number of people who show up for mass demonstrations is important, and you may have heard about that 3.5% statistic that's based on my research with Erica Chenoweth. So while that is key, even more important is sustaining that participation, welcoming in new people, including unaffiliated folks, those on the sidelines, those who have never been to a protest before, and those who may have even voted for the current president. These things are more important. This is where the community potlucks, the fan clubs, the neighborhood groups, the congregations, the indivisible chapters, the 50-51 groups, the mommy groups, that is so important. Why? Because when we organize, we win. Second, we've got to move the pillars. Pillars of support are the organizations and institutions that provide political systems with key sources of social, political, and economic power. These are the enablers. They're the faith organizations. They're the trade unions, business and corporate elites, media outlets, educational and cultural groups, civil servants, police and security forces, and other pillars, which provide labor, money, moral authority, critical skills, and coercive capabilities that sustain authoritarian systems. No pillars, no power. And these pillars are made up of people whose loyalties and incentives can shift. That is what autocrats fear the most. And shifting those loyalties is a key task we have right now. So something to consider as we head into No Kings 3. How are we tapping into our different identities as workers, as people of faith, as small business owners, as veterans, artists, Podunk University alumni? And how are we engaging with people in these pillars to invite them into action? Who on the call tonight, and put it in the chat, who has reached out to local businesses in your communities to put up ICE out signs? Who has organized with fellow alumni to press your universities to refuse capitulation with this administration? Who has organized mutual aid or food delivery with your congregations, temples, or mosques? Who has joined forces with veterans organizations or local bar associations in your communities? The more we strengthen our relationships and outreach to people in these key pillars, and the more we talk about why we are taking action based on what we are for and not just what we are against, the more likely we are to see loyalty shifts in these key pillars, which is so key to success. Third and final point, big protests like No Kings are very, very important. And we know they're insufficient to defeat authoritarianism. We need to be able to disrupt the status quo. We need to be able to apply pressure and to raise the costs of abuses of power. That takes non-cooperation, or what I like to call sometimes strategic stubbornness. Why non-cooperation? Because autocrats ultimately rely on compliance and obedience from ordinary people. They've got nothing without us. When people stop complying individually within pillars and finally en masse, autocrats become emperors with no clothes. Historically, strikes and other forms of mass non-cooperation have been the most powerful tools against authoritarian regimes, particularly when autocrats have attempted to steal elections or remain in power in defiance of their country's constitution. Does that sound familiar? So that is why the Freedom Trainers group that I've been part of has been leading trainings for hundreds of thousands of people across the country in the skills and strategies of non-cooperation. And you can find out more, including where there's some upcoming trainings at freedomtrainers.net. Fortunately, in this country, we have a long history of work stoppages, sit-ins, boycotts, walkouts, shutdowns, and countless other forms of non-cooperation that, as we heard in the video, helped end British colonial rule, helped abolish slavery, advance civil rights, remove Jim Crow, advance labor rights, marriage equality, and environmental protections. And we are flexing non-cooperation muscles now. The ICE out of Minnesota Day of Truth and Freedom on January 23rd that called for no work, no school, no shopping was an incredibly powerful model. And I know also, and we're going to be hearing more about this, that May Day Strong is organizing workers and communities for similar shutdown actions on May 1st. Non-cooperation takes many forms. Who on this call participated in the boycott of Tesla to boot Musk out of Doge? Who helped pressure Avelo Airlines to end their deportation flights? Who canceled their Disney subscription until they put Jimmy Kimmel Live back on the air? All incredibly successful strategic acts of non-cooperation. Who on the call has joined a school patrol or neighborhood rapid response to block ICE from kidnapping our kids? Or who's been part of an interfaith delegation that locked arms and refused to leave courtrooms or detention facilities? Who has participated in student walkouts to refuse compliance with a tax on education? Who has sat on a jury that refused to hand out indictments and comply with a weaponized DOJ? Who is working with workers and unions in their communities to prepare for May Day? So all these actions are necessary to impose costs on enablers of authoritarianism and to take care of our communities. And they're going to be really necessary to ensure safe, secure, and free elections in November, which I know we're going to be planning for. So because we know this administration has made its intentions clear to stay in power no matter the cost. And we sure as hell are not going to let them do that. So with that, Chris, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stefan, again, for not just all your work, but for the clear message to all of us that we have the skills, the tools, and the resources to counter authoritarianism and this authoritarian breakthrough moment. I have taken this training with Dr. Stefan, and it really was so consequential to my own organizing and work. So thank you so much, Dr. Stefan, for being with us tonight and just giving us that wisdom, and not just wisdom, but hope, right? So many people on this call are looking for direction on what to do, how to manage, how to navigate, how to move forward. So thank you so much for all of your work and for being with us tonight. Thank you so much, Dr. Stefan. Those of you, if you're fired up, if you're like, oh yes, I hear you, I want to be a part of that, I'm glad you feel that. You can go right now to nokings.org There again, you will find all the resources, including trainings, the map where you can see all the events and more. And if you go there and you don't find an event, it's cool. You can create one. And remember, it ain't no fun unless you bring some friends with you. So invite at least 3 of your friends to your local action. And speaking of people power, let's take a quick moment to hear from other folks in our community. I'll be right back.
Democracy doesn't disappear overnight. It erodes, one school board, one county vote, one silenced voice at a time. My county is the testing ground for the authoritarian policies that are affecting our communities. I participate in No Kings, so others feel comfortable using their voice and standing together hand in hand. No Kings isn't just a slogan, it's a line, and I'm here to hold it.
I think other people should consider joining No Kings because our communities need each other. We need to show we are out here, that we can speak, and we need to have the courage to make a difference. Once you get out there, once you see all of the people, you see your neighbors and your friends, it really gives you hope. And the thing we need now, the thing that they want to take from us the most is hope, is community. No Kings is a chance to build the future, to start by making the connections you can use to change everything. I hope you'll join me on No Kings because it's worth it.
Welcome back, friends. So again, if you saw that and was like, yeah, I want to be a part of that, remember, go to nokings.org. You have no excuse. So go ahead and sign up now. Our next guests are some of the country's leading organizers, thought leaders, and activists. Our first panelist is Nahal Zamani. They are the director of state campaigns at the ACLU, where she leads national efforts in partnership with affiliates across the country to advocate and advance coordinated advocacy and political campaigns. She brings over a decade of experience driving impactful work on civil rights, immigrant rights, and challenging abuses of power through roles at organizations like the Center for Constitutional Rights, DEMOS, and the State Innovation Exchange. Throughout her career, Nahal has been a powerful voice of justice, advocating at every level from local communities to international forums. Welcome, Nahal. Our next panelist is no stranger to fighting for justice, no stranger at all. Randy Weingarten is president of the American Federation of Teachers, a union of 1.8 million educators, healthcare professionals, and public employees, a longtime labor leader and former president of the United Federation of Teachers in New York City. She has been a leading voice for strengthening public education, workers' rights, and a more equitable economy. Under her leadership, the AFT has advanced major initiatives to support educators, expand access to education and healthcare, and defend democracy through collective action and community engagement. Welcome, President Weingarten. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And rounding us out for this portion of our talk today is Sarah Parker. Sarah is the executive director and president of Voices of Florida, where she leads advocacy and reproductive freedom, equality, and human rights. A longtime grassroots organizer and proud Black mother, she co-founded the organization in 2021 and has been driving force behind major efforts to protect abortion rights in Florida, including her leadership in Floridians Protecting Freedom Coalition. Now, she also serves as national coordinator for 5051. Sarah continues to mobilize communities across the country and to fight for justice. Welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you all for being here tonight. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. And we're going to jump right on in because the hour is late and we want people to be here with us. So I'm going to start with Sarah. Thank you again for joining us. How has the No Kings movement inspired people to stay off the sidelines, right, where it's so easy to be, and to take action?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think that a lot of people mention this, like a lot of people were feeling fear. I can say to November, even when 5051 started in January, and they didn't know what to do with that fear, right? And I like to say that like being courageous is not the absence of fear, it's acting despite of it. That is an amazing quote that I live by. And these people came out and got together and they realized they had a space, they had a community, they had people that cared about them. Not only that, they were able to actually do something about the anger instead of sitting in bed and or typing on Facebook. They were able to come together. So it's inspiring them. And one of the videos mentioned this, like hope. Hope defeats everything. Hope and acting in love. Because even when you're angry, it's because you love your community, right? That's why you're angry. That's why you're out there. It's from the love of your community. But hope keeps everyone going. And so they're coming out because they want to hope for a better future. They know that a better future is on the horizon. They're coming out and getting off the sidelines because they're seeing their community get off the sidelines just as much as they're seeing their communities executed, kidnapped, murdered. That's the reality, right? But when on No Kings, that's the one day that they can be like, you know what, I'm doing something about it. So that's what I think that's what's causing people to get up and get out on the sidelines, be in their community. And it's causing all of these amazing new organizers to show up, show out, and be real leaders. And we're going to need those leaders even after Trump is gone.
Exactly, exactly. You know, when you started talking about hope, you know, I'm a church boy, I started to feel my help. I really felt that. Next, I would like to go to President Weingarten. President, you
Randy,
have,
Chris, Randy.
okay, all right. I have respect.
I know, I
Okay,
know.
all right. So, Randy, you have been working for years to make this country a more just country, and you've seen a lot. Organizers are expecting more people than ever next weekend. Why is our movement growing despite these escalating threats from the other side?
Well, maybe it's growing in spite of them.
Mm.
In some ways, I think what's happened is, and you know, King, first off, I'm honored to be part of the No Kings movement. But I think we should remember what Martin Luther King said, which is first you crawl, then you walk, then you run. And I think what's happened is this, and Maria Stephan said it, and frankly, you said it before, and all those videos, that, you know, the first time when people showed up, first on for hands off, the first time somebody did a Tesla protest, did any kind of protest, I see it within my own movement. We are the fastest growing union in America right now. You start with a baby step. And you start doing something together with someone else. And that, you know, lots of people say courage is contagious, but what is contagious about that is community operating with each other, being with each other, doing something that is so broad-based. Because at this moment in time, virtually everyone in America is upset about something this administration is doing. I mean, I guess if you're a tech bro, or if you're a billionaire, or you're an oil exec, maybe even oil execs may be upset right now. But most people are upset because what, you know, the president promised was that life would get better, and life has gotten really worse. So taking away people's freedom, the fear that you talked about so eloquently at the beginning of this call, you know, when they can't then make that fear stick, and each of these No Kings, you see bigger and bigger. They tried last time to say, you know, to call us all sorts of different names. But when they can't make that fear stick, despite escalating actions, when they couldn't make it stick in Minnesota, when 75,000 people were on the street that day, when there's that mutual aid that happened, what it says to people is that the people united will never be divided and never be defeated. But we have to keep showing up and showing out, because autocrats don't quit unless they are out of power. So this No Kings 3 becomes even more important than No Kings 1 and No Kings 2, because we have to show that love beats hate, that that aspiration or hope beats fear, that light beats darkness, but that only happens when we do this side by side in community with each other. So I think what we have shown and proven is that people are saying across America, you cannot take our country away from us.
Mhm.
Now, we got to do more than that. It can't just be no kings, no crowns, no thrones. We have to actually make sure that we're not about the status quo. We are about a better democracy, a better life for people. But ultimately, when people stand together, that gives a lot of power and a lot of control and a lot of sense that we're not in this alone.
Mm. Now, Randy, you had two more sayings before you started to get in the preach, because I wrote it down. Love beats hate. You said hope beats fear, and light beats darkness. If you had about one or two more, we could have tuned you up.
Well, I'm married to a rabbi, so some of it had to
There you
rub
go.
off.
There you go. I know what I hear. My next question is for Nahal. You have been working through partnerships around the country, driving impactful campaigns around civil rights and so much more. Why is this moment calling for mass protest?
Thank you for having me. Hi everyone. My name is Nahal Zamani. My pronouns are she and her, and I serve as the Director of State Campaigns at the ACLU, working with 54 affiliates located across all the states in DC and Puerto Rico. I think that we are in a crucial moment where courts and Congress are increasingly unreliable checks on executive power. In that landscape, peaceful mass resistance is the only one option. In fact, it's the most powerful and consistent tool that we have. Government repression and authoritarianism relies on stoking fear, dividing communities, and people complying in advance. They try to manufacture emergencies as an excuse to clamp down on our civil liberties. And what we've seen throughout history, like my co-panelists have shared, is that when large numbers of people mobilize nonviolently, it exposes the cracks in the government's narrative. It makes repression backfire. And that's what we've seen play out over the last year. This perspective is driving everything that we're doing right now. At the ACLU, our theory of change is made up of three parts. We work to disrupt abuses of power. We want to delay them. We want to challenge them in the courts, in legislatures, media, and the streets. We work to delegitimize the administration, making attacks on our rights toxic and harder to sustain. And we work to draw defections, including pressure on enablers, including within the president's own party to break ranks. And mass mobilization is central to every single part of this. Large-scale mobilization creates real pressure. It rises the cost of continuing abuses and signals that much more of the people support mobilizing in the streets over and over again. So each No Kings event brings and builds relationships, infrastructure, muscle memory to show up together. That's why we had the infrastructure and the muscle memory to quickly organize over 1,200 protests around the country around 30 hours after Renee Good was killed by ICE. And this momentum we're carrying into the 28th was built community by community. And there's joy at these events. There's genuinely joy despite the grief and the anger, and that's not incidental. That is a sustainable movement. Democratic backsliding, it often intensifies before it reverses. So it can feel like things are worse, but what works is sustained, visible opposition. Our presence has real consequences. Our absences would have allowed for further escalation. So I'm thinking that for March 28th, the most important thing is that everybody listening comes and brings someone else with them. When the president is trying to manufacture emergencies to expand his own power, millions of people showing up on Saturday, March 28th becomes a truth that cannot be manipulated or ignored. And you all showing up is part of that truth. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And again, you heard what she said. If you show up on March 28th, you can stand with a sea of people who are standing with you, which means you can go to nokings.org right now and sign up. And if you don't see something in your neighborhood, sign up to host one. We got your back. My next question is to anybody who would like to answer. It's something that really I find to be interesting to think through. With a news cycle that is constantly changing at an almost dizzying speed, and like a new crisis every single day, sometimes multiple in a day. What's at stake right now for democracy in our communities? I want to keep this in hope, but I want us to know what this is. So, what's at stake right now for our democracy and our communities? Whoever would like to answer. And Randy, if you would like to, I think I saw you.
So let me start just by saying that Ruth Benguia calls this one of the historians that I love to listen to. She calls it a blitzkrieg of brutality and lawlessness. And then the amount of stuff that is thrown at us is meant to take us off course. It's meant to take us off kilter. It's meant to say, oh my God, we're going to just hide. Because what authoritarians want is either fear or apathy or isolation. And so when and I see my fellow panelists, so if we understand the intention of it, they're trying to figure out what works. So since other things didn't work, now we're going to something, and they're very good at naming something for the opposite of what they mean. The SAVE Act, really? This is the, Save the Trump Presidency Act, maybe, but it's certainly not saving elections when you want to re-register everyone and require a passport or a birth certificate and then take away, vote by mail. And so, so they're doing this because the other things didn't work. So I think that what's at stake is our right to actually complain to each other. What's at stake is our right to actually have a role in this government. What's at stake is essentially everything. But if we make it too big, what happens is that people get scared about that too. So this notion of bring a friend, go to No Kings 3, the more people that do that with joy, with hope, with light, with lots of fun, what it says to the people who are trying to destroy our rights, that they're not winning. So we have to understand the intention behind their motives, which is fear, apathy, or isolation.
Amen. There go that three, Randy. Okay. Sarah, I saw you. Would you like to take a stab at that as well?
Yeah, I think Randy said it very, very well. And I want to plus everything they said. And also, I think that it's important. Someone that grew up in the South, as a Black woman, my family's been down there since I was itty bitty and since they were itty bitty. I will be damned if my ancestors fought for a country like this and we see ground to fascism. That's period, point blank. Like, what is at stake is our entire country, our democracy. They are ripping the fabric of our communities to shreds. And I know that the people that fought for me to have the rights that I have right now felt exactly how we feel in this moment, and probably more scared. And they still fought. So it is a privilege for us not to fight. And I ask everyone to get rid of that privilege, to have these hard conversations, to push forward and recognize, yes, our country is at risk, but that does not mean a damn thing. That we can fight it and we can continue to fight and we can win, and we have to win. I have a 4 and a 6-year-old. I don't think about losing when I go to bed at night. I think about winning, and I know that we are going to win. So that the reality is, it's scary. But people have done it beforehand, and the playbook is written. They actually stole our playbook if we really want to get into it. Now we got to steal it back and do what we need to do to get the job done.
Okay, now, Sarah, I don't know what to do with this group. Okay, but when I tell you, I love when you said, "I would be damned if this country that my ancestor built go this way," and I know that's right. Okay, the hall, we're going to round it out with you.
I mean, I just want to echo like everything is at stake, and I actually believe we aren't giving in. This year alone, we saw what happened in Minnesota when neighbors came together and communities organized after the Trump administration deployed thousands of federal agents and the unjust killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy in Minnesota, along with all of those who've been harmed by ICE across this country. And community members came together, they organized, they peacefully protested, and it worked. The White House had to backtrack. Now, there are still hundreds of agents there, and there is trauma for that city. And yet, this is a stark example of the power of the people. We are building political will. You know, we are seeing an NPR Marist poll showing 2/3 of Americans who believe ICE enforcement has gone too far. People are together and they're united. That doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens because millions of people have made their opposition visible and impossible to ignore.
I feel that. Thank you so much. All right. So my last question for you all, my last question for you tonight, is in 60 seconds. um, my last question is you,
You have to laugh.
I know, right? What do you want people to take away from this call tonight? Like if you had 60 seconds, and this is the last 60 seconds tonight that you have with them, what is it that you want? And I would love to actually start with Nahal, if I may, and then I'm going to go to Sarah and then to Randy.
I know that we have the power, and I know that we are a diverse, powerful coalition of people. We are going to organize and come together in a few weeks for the largest single day of protest in the entire country because everything is at stake and we are working together. You know, we have too much to lose. Just a few weeks ago, President Trump unilaterally chose to take the United States to war with Iran, bypassing Congress and ignoring the Constitution's clear limits on executive power. And in America, the decision to go to war belongs to the people's elected representatives, not a single president. By acting without congressional approval, President Trump has treated the presidency as if he were a king and put us all at risk. That's just one reason we need to be showing up on the 28th. And there's so many more. So I really feel that we have nothing to lose. Everything is at stake, and we are here to win.
Thank you, Nahal. Sarah.
60 seconds, I got you. To all the organizers and attendees that are watching right now in this moment, I want to be clear. I know all of us have titles as leaders, but you are the true leaders in this moment because you are the ones on the ground consistently fighting, and we believe in you to be leaders. And I say this with every fiber of my being. You are the linchpin in democracy right now. I want you to take that away, that you are, if it's your first protest or your 10th protest you've ever organized, you are the leader in this moment. You are creating history just like every last one of us on this call are. And we believe in you and we need you. And please, please organize for No Kings. Please, if you have not ever done a protest, you can do it. You have the resources. It's scary, but we believe in you. I promise you. I remember being my first protest. It is much more simpler than you think it is.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Remember, you are the linchpin of democracy right now. And we're going to end this segment with Randy.
So I love what my colleagues have said, and I couldn't say it any better than them, which is that every one of us can do something. None of us can do everything, but every one of us can do something. And when we see each other doing something, think about what happened in the Montgomery bus boycott. Think about what happened in South Korea. Think about what has happened in Brazil. This is our turn. Think about what happened 250 years ago. We can do things when we do things together. I saw it after the second No Kings, when so many people came out and then they went out to vote, and we saw what happened that day. This is the power of the people. And as Sarah just said, individuals all over America, people who together become the tapestry of what we want our democracy to look like. And every single teacher, every single child, every teacher teaches, every lawyer who's been in a courtroom, everyone who has done a protest already. What happens is that we're seeing that we're not just saving a country, we are empowering a country to be a better place. That's what we mean when we say no kings, no crowns, none of this, none of this. No kings, no crowns, no thrones. That's what we mean. It's the power of the people. It's the power of all of us to protest non-violently in a way that's saying, this is who we are.
Well, I can't add anything to that. Thank you so much, Randy, Nahal, and Sarah, for all that you do and the leadership that you have in this moment. People are looking for answers and guidance, and I can guarantee you there are thousands of people watching us right now who are like, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can push for this. Maybe I can. And if you're thinking that, you can go to nokings.org right now, okay? And bring at least 3 friends with you on March 28th. It's in the name, No Kings 3, bring 3 friends with you. Look at it. It's easy to remember. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And I am so excited to hear more from you over the next couple of weeks. Now, let's hear from some more people who are turning urgency into action. We will be right back.
It's really incredible. I know there'll be a picture of it at some point, but my sign, I can't show it super well. We asked all of you to send in what you would put on a protest sign, and I wrote all of them down on my sign. So your voices are here with me today.
Our next group of panelists is just as dynamic as the last. Sada Hagdusti is MoveOn's newest chief of program. Sada brings a rich tapestry of experience that spans the globe and issues. Formerly the executive director of Win Without War, she spent years calling out administrations and politicians. She started her organizing in Australia at the Australian Youth Climate Coalition. An avid writer, I can't wait to read it. She is working to make sure that the story of the future will be better than the former. Welcome, Sada. Good to see you. Shelby Chestnut is the executive director of Transgender Law Center, the largest national trans-led organization working toward a future where all people are free to define themselves and their lives. With over 20 years of experience in community organizing, policy, advocacy, and leadership, they previously served as TLC's Director of Policy and Programs, helping to shape key initiatives like the Trans Agenda for Liberation. A longtime leader in the LGBTQ and anti-violence movements, Shelby has advanced transformative change for Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities and continues to drive forward a vision of trans liberation nationwide. Welcome, Shelby. And our next guest tonight is Ariane Betancourt. Ariane is the community catalyst with the Workers' Circle, a national secular Jewish social justice organization with over 200,000 activists across the country that has been spearheading weekly vigils since August 3rd, drawing hundreds of people outside the infamous Alligator Alcatraz Detention Center in the Everglades, where her own father is currently being detained. Her work has been featured in Mother Jones Magazine, The Guardian, CBS, El Pas, and other media. A tireless advocate for human rights, Ariane and other family members together held Kristi Noem accountable at the recent Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that ended her tenure as DHS Secretary. Shelby, I'm going to start with you. So much of our work depends on partnership and collaboration. In the No Kings Coalition, also, there are dozens of partner organizations and millions of people showing up to these rallies. Why does nonviolent and lawful mass participation protect legitimacy and strengthen coalition?
That's such a great question. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here. Admittedly, I will be candid. I'm at the Pittsburgh airport where I live. So if you hear some background noise, that's what's going on. I think the tactics of this administration are really clear. They want to keep us divided so that our power is dispersed. And they do so through intimidation and violence to try and stop us from taking action. Basically, if they can convince us that that what immigrants are facing, that's not our problem. If they can convince us that trans people having their health care taken away, that's someone else's problem, it really just continues to keep us siloed. So I think which helps them then deploy their power and forces to suppress our resistance. Mm-hmm. But I think when we have nonviolent mass participation in the scales that we've seen in recent years, we have a power at scale, and we have a power that people start to believe in. And we're effectively demonstrating that this is not just people in big cities or people on coasts that care about it, but it's really all people across the country that are engaged. Mass participation is showing us that literally everyone who's not a billionaire, people in towns of every size across the country, demand a future that actually works for us. Fun fact, I was born in Shelby, Montana, hence my name. It's a town of about 500 people, and there's people that showed up there for the first No Kings, the second No Kings, and they'll be there for the third No Kings. Mm-hmm. And I think to me that speaks volumes to a place that, it's been devastated for generations, but people still see themselves in what this is calling for. So I think when people are showing up in numbers, it shows the world that we're building something real. Mm. And I also think it's easy. I think it's easy to feel like what we're fighting for is something abstract, but it's not. Mm. But the reality is that our communities are creating the future that we want right now and for the generations to come. I think look at Minneapolis. Shout out to my hometown where I went to high school in. They are a prime example of that. And I know others have touched on this, but it's really what little g government does. Neighbors showing up for each other, making sure that people have food, making sure that their people's rent is paid. We were on the ground as TLC and we saw queer and trans groups anchoring mutual aid networks for immigrant families. We saw a Native community doing security for the entire city. And it was really a unified effort across all people's sort of race, class, and gender. And it made it that much more powerful. I think what in this moment, it's really important to take this type of action. And I think for me, it's something that TLC emphasizes in our work. And it's that demonstrating that our movement includes people of all backgrounds, not just trans people in our case, but really all people. Mm-hmm. And I think change is happening when we're in coalition across that race, class, gender, and geography. And it's also when it's multi-generational and we can lean onto the ideas of knowing that we'll be held by both elders and young people. I think our young people are teaching us so much in this moment of what's possible and really what we deserve. So with that, I'll just close and say that I think for me, when I think of what that question is, it's about what is it nourishing for me to think about the generation that I want to be part of, the generation that will come after me, and the generations that we're going to build for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Because right now it might feel hard, but I think certainly what we're building on the other side of what's hard is something that we've never seen in many of our lifetimes and perhaps never again.
Definitely. What I love is you're calling out us being siloed, because I think as a country, as like folks are in their little spaces and they just do what they do. I mean, we all do that. but also the intergenerational organizing that's happening right now and learning from not just folks who are more seasoned, but also from young folks, because we know every movement is led by the young folks. And so I love that call out that you had. Sada, hey Sada, your organizing has spanned these United States and globally. You've seen and experienced a lot. How is this moment different from any other moment in American history?
This moment is different than any other moment because of all of you who are watching, because of the strength of the resistance and the power we have. Donald Trump and his administration clearly have shown us again and again that their strategy is one of violence for our communities with impunity and more resources for the Epstein class. And at every time they have done that, we have shown up and said, we are not letting you come for our families. We are not letting you come for our neighbors. And, at Move On, what I get to see day after day is millions of people across this country being like, I want to do more. There is no way that I am taking a backseat while this is happening. And that is what I think gives me the most hope and the most optimism for what we have right now. And to people, like so many people have said, this fight isn't abstract. And I just want to say, I know it's not, because I have benefited from these protests. And I'm going to just share that I was born in Iran during the first Trump administration. My family was one of those that was impacted by the Muslim ban. I was 8 months pregnant, terrified that my mother wouldn't be able to get into the country. And if anyone who's listening showed up to one of those airport protests back in the day and was there and went out and did that work, I just want to say my mom was able to get into the country because of what you did. And for all that the horror we are seeing, it is so important that we not lose sight of the amount that we have stopped happening as well. In this moment, I have been thinking about a lot about the history of protests, but also my very first rally was against the Iraq War. And from that, so many people, that was their very first rallies. So many movement leaders, a whole new generation of folks went into Congress. I have been thinking so much about how 20 years ago, the war in Afghanistan, only one person voted against that. And when it came to Iraq, most of Congress voted for it. And now we have such a deeper bench of champions because of those protests. And it is so important to remember that for every person who takes an action, for every time that we go to a rally, we are building courage, and courage builds courage. And I want to say here today, when Donald Trump gets up there and says people who are born in Iran, our DNA is disposed to violence and wants to make people like me ashamed of where I am from, I have never in my life been afraid to condemn the authoritarianism in Iran, to speak out against human rights violations in Iran and condemn that regime. But I will never apologize for my background either, because when it comes to the tradition of Iranian activism, I would not be here talking to all of you had it not been for generation after generation of women in Iran who have fought for their rights. And I am so proud to be standing here today in that tradition, and in the tradition of so many of the ancestors in this country who have come before us. Because again, for all that it is scary, the fear and the fear that they are trying to embed, we have seen the pathway. We know we can win. And everything we do, to what Sarah said, is an act of love for those that have put so much on the line, who have came before us.
First of all, thank you for sharing your story, because that vulnerability. There are so many people watching who can identify with that. And I take notes with these calls because I learn. And this is one of the best lines of the night. Courage builds courage. You got to work that muscle. Maya Angelou speaks about courage as being one of the best attributes, because without courage, you cannot practice any other attribute. Speaking of courage, I want to go to Ariane. Many people are feeling fear and uncertainty right now. From your perspective, speaking of courage, what does courage look like in this moment? And how can people put it into practice leading up to March 28th? And you are muted, Ariane. It's all right.
Courage is something I had to come to terms with on October 29th when my dad was detained at his routine ICE check in. I sat at home and just thought there are no options. I mean, the system is designed to go against us, to fail us. It's not that minorities and people of color are failing, it's that the system was designed to fail us. And I went to the first vigil. I got invited to the vigil outside of Alligator Alcatraz because I was like, if there's nothing that I can do, I'm going to make noise and I'm not going to sit here and know that my dad is in the infirmary unit at Alligator Alcatraz, shackled by his waist, by his legs, by his arms to a bed 24 hours out of the day, can use the bathroom once or twice a day, gets a shower once a week, gets to brush his teeth every few days, has no water. And when I got to the vigils outside of Alligator Alcatraz that are organized by the Workers Circle, it was the first spark of hope and courage that I had in that first week. When I saw people coming together for families like mine, people who are not directly affected, people who did not look like me, standing in solidarity. And that they had been doing that week after week, every Sunday, rain or shine. That was courage. That inspired me that I had to do more. This was something that was directly affecting me and my family. And the issue had gotten as large and as terrible as it has because people have been silenced by fear. Courage is going against your fear. You have to be willing to dive into the uncertainty, not go against it. Just dive into it and keep the motion going. And every week I went to the vigil, and every week I met more and more people. And then I started connecting with families, and families were willing to speak out because they were like, this is a safe space.
Ooh, okay. First of all, Ariane, I just want to say before we go on, I know that people watching right now are like, oh my goodness. I want to thank you for sharing this piece of your story, which is the fuel behind your activism. And I want to honor you publicly for the stand that you are making for not just for your father. What you are doing is fighting for folks who you will never ever meet. And I just want to take this moment to honor you in this space publicly before these thousands of people for the work that you are doing and the work that folks like you are doing and how personal it is for you. And I really just want to take that moment and just say thank you for everything that you do. I can't let that go and not say that. Thank you so much. To I mean, like, oh, you got my heartstrings. This question, like the last panel, is about what's at stake right now for democracy in our communities. And so I would like to open it up to any one of you who would like to answer that question if you have thoughts on what's at stake right now.
Everything's at stake. I mean, democracy itself is at stake. Everything that our Constitution represents and all of our democratic values, what America's supposed to represent, every single thing is at risk. Our rights, our safety, our peace of mind. I mean, I know how I felt months prior to my dad being detained. I know the fear and the chaos and the turmoil and the uncertainty that it causes. And as much as you try to keep going, you know, it's if you call and they don't answer and their phone died and you can't see their location, we have lost the principles of the American dream. Democracy is at stake itself. You know, the SAVE Act, I mean, just the SAVE Act itself, it's an attack on democracy.
Yeah.
It's an attack on years of women fighting for their rights to vote. It's an attack on everything that people have been fighting for 100 years.
Thank you, Ariane. Would anybody else like to tackle that one? Shelby.
This is Shelby. Yeah, I can go. I mean, I'm honestly a little bit moved by your comments because I do think it's right. Like everything is on the line. I just want to lift up something that happened in the last month. Many people woke up to news around the country that Kansas had passed a law that would immediately invalidate trans people's driver's license. And, I share that partly because I think it links to so much of what we're fighting for. These are people who probably had to move mountains to change their identity documents in the first place. They fear not being able to drive, being pulled over if they are driving without a license. They could risk losing their jobs. They could risk losing their housing. They could risk being safe in public life in whatever way that means right now. And, there's also just the real reality that in places like Kansas, that it will limit their ability to vote for those that can vote. And that's one example, and I just want to name here, and I think partly why Transgender Law Center was really keen on, I think, getting behind No Kings is because if we do not start having real big interventions at kitchen tables and in the grocery stores and with state lawmakers around what's on the line for trans people, we're going to be in a really, really hard position. We've had over 500 anti-LGBT bills introduced in state legislatures this legislative season, majority of which target trans people. Since Trump took office a little over a year ago, there's been almost 13, and don't quote me, it might be 12, at least 12 executive orders that have targeted transgender people. And for context, for listeners here who might not know trans people the ways that some of us do, we're a tiny percentage of the population. So the contrast is just there that to me, it's like, I think it's important because if we don't show up now for the young people in our lives whose parents right now, hospitals are getting subpoenaed for their children's medical records because lawmakers are saying your child does not deserve health care in the state that you have moved to, the state that you live in. It's directly linked to, I think, what others have lifted up, that if we're not seeing the bigger sort of machine that we're being all put into, we can't fix it. And I do think, for me, at the same time, I'll end with this. 70 in our exit polling data from this last presidential election, 70% of Americans said they support transgender people. That's amazing.
Yes.
Is there a lot of data in there that's complicated and we need to figure out what to do with it? 110%. But it to me means that we have not as much work to do to get that 30% there who just don't know what our issues are yet. And I think it's on all of us, not just me, but really all of us, to show up for each other and to be in community on these intersecting issues because they're all really directly linked to each other. And just deep appreciation for my co-panelists. I was not trying to come to this call and get tears, but here I am. So thank you both.
Definitely that. They are right here. Okay. And it's only because my apartment is so cold that I am not a mess. Sada.
I I want to echo my fellow panelists. What's on the stake is our families, our loved ones, right? And the casual cruelty that they've talked about, that is the hallmark of tyrants. That is the hallmark of kings. That is not what we want or deserve from our democracies. And I really want to acknowledge everyone who's watching, who, since this president essentially on a whim started a war on Iran with no congressional approval, none of that kind of check and balances, who have spent the last 2 weeks desperately trying to connect with family, worried about if they're safe. I want to acknowledge people who might be watching who are service members or who have family in service right now, who have been terrified about the way our troops are being put on the line for absolutely no reason. Like, I know I have family in Iran and how terrifying that is. So again, I just want to acknowledge that this casual cruelty is unacceptable. And it is real. These aren't headlines. These are our lives. And it impacts us as real people. And at the same time, right? Like just this week, the Trump administration has asked for $200 billion for more bombs, right? The amount of extra healthcare we could have gotten for that money, the amount of they keep telling us there's no money for healthcare. There's no money for food stamps. There's no money for you, but there is money for bombs and there is money for violence, even if it is going to drive up our gas prices, even if it increases, if it makes all of us less safe, that's fine because again, they can do, that is their prerogative, right? And it is just so unacceptable. And when you look at the Trump administration, the casual cruelty is the point. And again, what we have seen as the antidote to that is showing up, right? It is so easy to get overwhelmed. It is so easy to feel like this is so big and so hard. But the only way to guarantee that nothing changes or this gets worse is to do nothing. Right? We have to show up. We have to show up for ourselves, our kids, our loved ones, our neighbors. This isn't about anything abstract. It's about who we are and what we deserve.
Thank you, Sada. Y'all, your words are more than powerful and motivating. So as we close, we're going to do the same thing as we did with the last panel, 60 seconds. What is it that you want folks to walk away from tonight? And I'm going to start with Shelby, then go to Sada, and end with Ariane.
I'm going to go back to the 70% of Americans. If you don't know how to talk to your friends, your neighbors, your Uber driver, your Lyft driver, anyone you're interacting with about trans rights, there's a group in your town, in your state, in your local region that you can tap into and plug into. It's a good way to be of service for folks who are needing support now more than ever. And I can guarantee you there is an organization looking for support right now. I'll end with this, and this will hopefully get me to 60 seconds. About 10 years ago, I met this little girl. Her name was Madeline. At the time she was 9, so she's probably just out of high school now, hopefully headed to college. Her parents, super down parents, they lived in Texas. We defeated an anti-trans bill there. We were at an LGBT pool party celebrating, and I had my TLC name tag on. And she came up to me and she goes, "Oh, you work for TLC?" And I was like, "Oh, it's so cute. This little 9-year-old trans girl knows about the Transgender Law Center." And I was like, "Yeah, I help trans people like you and me." And her response was, "Oh, that's stupid. I thought you worked for the Dinosaur Channel." And I think, to me, I say that because we need to be building a world where the 9-year-old trans girl who lives in Texas is more interested in what she's going to watch on the Dinosaur Channel than people debating her rights. And she just spent all day in the state legislature and she had no idea that people were debating her.
Wow.
And just to see, like, that's the sort of love that we need to be showing young people in this moment and the world that we want to be building towards.
Thank you so much, Shelby. Sada.
When in moments where I try to ground myself, I think of the words of Leela Watson, who's an incredible Indigenous leader from Australia, who said, if you're here to save me, you're wasting your time. But if you're here because your liberation is bound up on mine, then we can work together. And in this moment, particularly on this panel, it is so clear how deeply our liberation is entwined with each other. And that to me, and again, I am so grateful to all of you who have shown up, who are continuing to show up. And when we live in these times, sometimes we are called to do extraordinary things together. And my ask is, again, remember, courage breeds courage. And think about what is the next step you can take. So if you haven't shown up to the rally yet, do it now. If you've never taken that next step to organize a rally or do something else, do it now. But think about what is the next thing you can do. And take a moment to think about, if you do that, what kind of courage are you going to spread through your communities as you do it? And what kind of permission structure are you going to give for others to follow in your footsteps?
Thank you, Sada. And we're going to end this segment with Ariane. And you're muted.
If the one thing that I want people to take from this, and people like us coming together and sharing our stories, is you need to stand up and, don't tell us you guys are great, we're so proud of you. Like, no, have the courage to stand with me. If the disease is separation, then unity and solidarity is the cure. So it's like our families could be separated, but us, the families who are on the outside, we need to be at these rallies. We need to be at No Kings. We need to speak louder than anyone else in the room. What I did at the Kristi Noem hearing, they tried to silence us. They tried to change the narrative. And I was like, no, we're here because our families are detained. Their human rights are being violated. They're being oppressed. It's the song that we've been hearing for hundreds of years. The difference is now there is more of us. There are more ways to communicate. There are more ways to be involved, to be informed, to be aware. So go to No Kings. If you've never gone to a protest, you've never gone to a rally, that is a great start. That is a great start. And if you don't have anyone to go with, it's fine, because you can go there and you're going to look to your right, you're going to look to your left, and you found your people. It's the hardest part is getting yourself out there. Once you get there, once you go and you see why people are coming together, it gives you a reason and a purpose to fight harder.
I know that's right. So y'all heard it from Ariana immediately. So if you don't have the 3 friends to bring with you, go to the protest and find your people. They there. Don't worry. You'll find 3 friends when you get there. Thank you so much to Sada, Shelby, and Ariane for not only the work that you do, but literally the courage to be leaders in this moment. Thank you so much for everything that you do and that you are doing, and the ways, you will not know the lives you touch today. It will reverberate and you will never see it, but know that you've touched folks tonight. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. So folks, you might be like, okay, we heard a lot. What does it look like to be a part of these events? I am so glad that you asked. I want to introduce our next speaker to talk about what you should expect. So please welcome Eunice Epstein Ortiz. Eunice is a seasoned communications strategist with nearly 20 years of experience across government advocacy and public affairs. She has led high-impact campaigns, including efforts to secure $15 minimum wage in Florida and advising on global messaging for the 2016 Olympics in Brazil, as well as coordinating national coalition responses to major political moments. Eunice has held leadership roles at SEIU, the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, and major media outlets, and now leads EO and Co., a firm focused on social justice, electoral, and public affairs campaigns. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Unic. Can you tell the audience about what they should expect and how they should prepare?
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you, for having me here this evening. You know, tonight we've heard from so many incredible leaders, and on March 28th, we will hear from you, the leaders of No Kings. Every single person on this call is what makes this movement real, because the millions of us showing up at our next No Kings protests aren't just attendees. We are the force that proves power belongs to the people. We are coming together to say clearly and loudly, we don't do kings in America. Since October, the Trump regime has doubled down. They are spending billions on an illegal war while the cost of living skyrockets. They are attacking and targeting trans youth and adults while debating right now, as Randy Weingarten was saying earlier, on the Senate floor if they should block millions of us from voting. They are ignoring mass shootings while gutting healthcare, environmental protections, and education when families need them most. They are targeting immigrant families, Black and brown people, ripping apart families by targeting our children. And the list goes on and on and on. America has a long history of suppressing the rights of people of color grounded in white supremacy, but our history is clear. People-led movements like No Kings are how we end these attacks on our rights and attempts at authoritarianism. And on March 28th, there is a clear action we must take. History shows us, including last year, that there is power in our collective protest. This is a moment of visible, non-violent people power in communities all across the country. Because in America, again, we don't do kings. Right now, we have more than 3,000 events planned nationwide, and registrations are soaring. And that's because all of you, as Chris has continued to say, continue to invite your friends, your family, and your community. This is growing, and it's going to continue to grow. Whether this is your first protest or your next protest, there is a place for you in this. So as it's been shared, you can find your local event on Mobilize and at nokings.org. There are thousands happening across the country. RSVP, show up. If you can volunteer, show up to volunteer. Help your hosts, safety, setup, outreach, and cleanup. There is a role for you in this movement. If there's not an event near you, if you go on the map and you put in your zip code and you're like, where's my No Kings event? Host an event. Get a couple friends together, make signs, get on a corner block, and make sure folks know there is a No Kings in your community. It's about showing up. It's about bringing your voice and also your personal story. So as you continue to think about how do you show up strong on this day, like I've said, this is about people power over unchecked power. And if there's one thing to say on a No Kings Day, it's this. If President Trump thinks he can terrorize us into silence while he plays king, he picked the wrong people. Americans don't roll over for wannabe kings or dictators. We fight back. So the most powerful message you can bring is your own story. Why are you showing up? And what brought you to No Kings? Share that story absolutely everywhere, online, in your community, at your kitchen table, and at the protest itself. Come together with your community and share your stories with one another. That's how this grows, not just in size, but the actual meaning behind why we are together next Saturday, March 28th. Every No Kings event is grounded in nonviolent action, and that means we de-escalate and we do not engage. We stay focused on the stories that bring us together. If you visit nokings.org/trainings, we have a number of trainings that focus on knowing your rights, safety, and de-escalation. Check out again nokings.org/trainings for more information about some of those things that will happen over the course of the next 9 days. No Kings doesn't end next Saturday, just like it didn't end after last year. Stay connected with your local host and the people you met. This isn't just a single day. It's about building ongoing power in our communities. This is how change happens over the course of our history. People showing up, people standing together, and people telling their personal stories. It's the most powerful thing you can do next Saturday. Again, across more than 3,000 events, we will show what it looks like when people lead. Every story, every person, and every community, no matter your zip code, matters. No Kings, not now, and not ever.
Thank you so much, Unic. I really appreciate you being here. And I know people here are thankful for you letting them know what to expect and how they can get involved. Thanks so much for your brilliance and all the work that you have done to support this movement. Really appreciate you being with us tonight. All right, folks, we have one final speaker. You definitely want to stick around for that. but right after this quick little break. Be right back.
I'm just an average American practicing my rights. I think it's important for people to come out here, especially young people, to be out early and practicing the things that not everyone in the world gets to practice. So that's why I'm here.
Exercise your First Amendment right to come out and protest peacefully and in a nonviolent manner in the street.
I'm proud to be an American, and I'm proud to stand up for constitutional law over military rule.
We will not stand down. We will not stand for a would-be dictator or a would-be king that lives in the White House right now.
Speak up, use your freedom of speech, and don't be afraid to go out there. Like, this is your country. Don't be scared.
A lot of my friends aren't able to make it today because they're afraid of repercussions of showing up, which makes it even more important for me to show up for people that can't.
This administration has done a lot of unconstitutional things and they've gotten away with it pretty easily. We thought we'd come out here to say what we wanted to say and represent our families who couldn't make it here.
I like the fact that so many people are getting involved and seem to be activated. We're seeing a lot more pushback on the stuff that the Trump administration is doing.
Speak up. I think it's really important to maintain connections with people instead of, sometimes when we're afraid we isolate. I think it's really important to have conversations, even the difficult conversations with people, and create points of connection to, revitalize that sense of humanity.
Americans should be doing their research. They should be building community with their neighbors. Americans should be protesting for what they believe in, really no matter what that is, because that is our right as American people. Americans should be protecting our democracy. It's a scary time.
It is a scary time, but we know what to do. Our next guest needs no introduction. He's been an actor for over 50 years and has used his voice to hold this administration to account. Here with a special message, please welcome our friend and beloved actor, Mr. Robert De Niro.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, everyone. I've played plenty of tough, scary guys in the movies, but you know what really scares the hell out of me? What the government, this government, our government, is trying to do to take away our right to vote. They're trying every trick in the book, and the Constitution be damned. You see what they're trying to pull, right? Nationalizing elections, hijacking the state's voter rolls, making everyone re-register with original birth certificates, passports, and other documents, putting Trump's private army on the street to intimidate voters, having his Supreme Court eviscerate the Voting Rights Act, declaring another one of his phony emergencies so he has an excuse to cancel the elections altogether, ending voting by mail, seizing voting machines. The list goes on. And that's just part of the voter suppression already on the table. God knows what else is coming, but something is coming. Why am I focusing on voting when they're doing so many other monstrous things? Because our vote is our power, our voice. It's how we say no to corrupt leaders enriching themselves while they take away health care and support for our most vulnerable. It's how we say no to the tariffs, which we all know is a tax on the middle class, while the billionaire Trump Epstein class get huge tax breaks. It's how we get a responsible Congress to say no to expensive, illegal, and immoral wars. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. No one voted for new wars. No one voted for higher prices at the pump. No one voted for higher prices in grocery stores. No one voted for higher prices in the housing market. No one voted for deporting our good neighbors. And no one voted for government masked thugs shooting down our citizens in the streets. Trump isn't paying attention to what we voted for, but we will get his attention in the November elections. That's why I'm asking you to vote 3 times. First, vote with your feet in the nonviolent No Kings demonstration on March 28th. Second, vote with your support and presence for whatever is needed to oppose the next abomination of the Trump administration. That could mean helping register people to vote, or nonviolently taking to the streets in large numbers so voters feel secure. Whatever it takes. And finally, third, vote in the election November 3rd. That is the ultimate goal. But first, you have to vote by joining the No Kings demonstrations. Then second, you have to vote by answering the call to fight this insane administration. And if you don't do both of those, you may never get to vote at all. It's crazy, but it's come to that. So now it's up to you. It's up to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. De Niro, for your message and for continually using your platform to push for a better country where we can all thrive. Thank you so much, sir. So, friends, that's it. The message is clear. This is the moment to show up. Families are being torn apart, communities are under attack, fear is being used as a tool to divide us, but we are stronger together. So remember, you can go right now to nokings.org to find your local action and be a part of a powerful movement. There you can find all the resources that you need, everything from trainings, the map to figure out where the local event is, or where you should register a local event if you don't see one. And remember to invite at least 3 friends. And if you don't have 3 friends to invite, you can go to the action and make 3 friends. We've heard from some really amazing movement leaders, organizers, and activists from across the country. Thank you again to Dr. Maria Steffen, to Nahal Zamani, Randy Weingarten, Sarah Parker, Sada Hadusti, Shelby Chestnut, Ariane Betancourt, Unique Epstein Ortiz, and Mr. Robert De Niro. And they're not the only big names and big activists on board. We're also excited to share that Jane Fonda and Joan Baez and Maggie Rogers will be taking the stage at our national flagship event in the Twin Cities on the 28th. So listen, you have company. If you're sitting at home and it's like, oh, I just feel so alone, don't feel it. There are millions of people ready. This is but a modicum of what the coalition represents. We are made up of amazing people from every walk of life, and on March 28th, we will come together to let this administration know no throne, no crown, no kings. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you on March 28th. Good night.